Hello, everybody out in Facebook. This is Sean. It's Friday. You know what that means? Time for a little fireside chat. And as always, what would fireside chat be without a little Merlot? Good stuff. Raul Murillo. Thanks for joining. Don East, how are you this evening? Thank you guys for being on. Always a pleasure. So look, I'm going to be brief tonight, which I know you guys find that hard to believe. But I have a date with a fishbowl margarita here in a very short period of time. So we need to make sense. Kelly Kit, man, good to see you. So look, here's the deal. I don't know if you guys have had kids that have gone away to college or not, right? But so as always, I want to tell a little bit of kind of my story. But as always, maybe try to share something from my experience with that may or may not help you out, you know, if and when you find yourself in the same situation. David Warden, good to see you, man. Thanks for being on. Laura, it's going to make sense here in a moment. I'll slow down for the Texas fans. Mike Berry, good to see you, man. Thanks for being on. So here's the deal. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. The only bad thing, Kelly, is I'm pretty blessed, right? This is a neat setup. Me and my uncle did this when we built the house. I liked it, like when you got on the patio, that you can also enjoy the same fire. But the problem is you can see my patio furniture in the background, so I need to move that before I do these in the future, probably. But thank you for the compliment. Raul, I'm not doing whiskey, man. We're gonna go do margaritas in a minute, so I got to keep my Merlot consumption to a dull roar. Real quick, look, I'm gonna try to make it a point to, you know, as I try these. This is called Ghost Pines. You know, I forget. I think it's like 1999 or something, right? So not bad. I like it. It's kind of fruity, not as much of a tobacco kind of a finish to it. So good stuff. I think you'll enjoy it. Shannon, good to see you, man. The R Factor in the house. So look, today, took my daughter to, one of my alma maters, but my wife Kim is a double grad of OU, so Raul Murillo and others on here like to give me crap. I actually grew up in Houston being an OU fan, which, let me tell you, they were the best of times and they were the worst of times. They were the worst of times because I was down amongst the enemy, right, being an OU fan. It was the best of times because Texas was absolutely horrible whenever I grew up in the 80s. So we enjoyed a lot of winning streaks. I don't want to talk about the 90s. I just don't. But I will say Stoops came back and, you know, we went to a couple national championships, won a few, and we lost several, but whatever. You got to get there, right? But anyway, that's not really the point. The point is that it's easy, I think, sometimes as a parent, if you've gone to school, to want your kid to go to your alma mater, right? So do me a favor, down in the comment section, type a 1 if you've ever been in a situation where either your children or other loved ones in your family that you've either really, really hoped or even tried to persuade them to go to your alma mater just kind of for selfish reasons. I'm going to type a 1 in there later. Part of what I wanted to talk about today is that if we're doing our job as parents, I think, is that we're being facilitators in life, right? I think a lot of times parents, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, this is just my personal opinion, okay? So before y'all beat me up. It's my personal opinion that I think sometimes parents, God bless them, they're involved, but maybe they're involved in the wrong way. And the way I've always expressed it is sometimes I think parents live their lives vicariously through their kids. And look, that beats the alternative, I think, of not being involved, right? But my personal opinion is that we need to be facilitators and wisdom providers, which they're not going to listen to oftentimes anyway, but I think we should facilitate our kids' self-discovery. We should kind of help steer them, or at least go, hey, you know what, you might take that path, but let me tell you that is a more treacherous path than the other path. And if they do choose to take the treacherous path, right, then we need to be there to help pick them up when they skin their knees and dust them off, and either redirect them down the other path, or encourage them to continue. But we can't and shouldn't make their decisions for them. But I think that we should be facilitators of wisdom. Nami, thanks for being on. Or is it Nami? I'm not sure where the emphasis goes on your name. I apologize. I think it's probably Nami, but I might be wrong there. So forgive me if I'm destroying that. But so college, guys, is an example, I think, of what I'm talking about. And it's very difficult for me, right? Because I love my university very, very dearly. As you can see, I got the hat, I got the shirt, and let's see here. Can you boomer? Thank you, Nami. But I, when I look at my youngest daughter, right? She was in gymnastics, and I really wanted her to play soccer. When she was a kid, she was a dynamic soccer player. I mean, it was ridiculous. She'd go out and score like 15 goals in a game, to the point where it was awkward. It's bad when your own parents are mad that the kid's been left in the game too long, right? But the kids don't know, they want to play. So I'm like, stick with soccer. Well, she wanted to go do gymnastics, right? And it turned out she was a pretty darn good gymnast. But then at one point she was like, well, I really want to play soccer, right? Look, I wasn't going to make her play soccer. I wasn't going to make her do gymnastics, but I was going to try to be a facilitator for her of good choices. And the conversation I had with her was, look, if you think for a moment that you want to dedicate yourself to a sport that might get you a scholarship, or that you might want to try to pursue professionally, then it's going to be rare that you go out and do 10 different things and achieve that level of success. Often it's people choose one, maybe two, and they really dedicate and pour their heart and soul into that, and they're successful at it. The point I'm making is less about sports teams, but it's about me as a parent not getting overly involved. It's me as a parent not telling her what she's going to do, or what she's going to enjoy, or how she's going to enjoy it. It's not me sitting around banking on, or with the very selfish pursuit of, well, gosh, maybe if she does X, Y, or Z, that it'll get her a scholarship one day. That's not servant leadership, and in my opinion, I don't think it's very good parenting. Well, the penultimate example of that, I think, is when you're looking at helping your child select a university. And so my oldest daughter is going to be a senior next year, and that makes me feel incredibly old. I've got a dog down here that really wants my attention. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good girl. Okay. Sit. So, look, it's even if you think that not getting involved in the sports and things on your kid's behalf is difficult, then this is 100 times more difficult, particularly when you think you know what's best for your child. But look, with anything, right, just when you think that you've got it all figured out, and just when you think that you're the parent that might have the answers for your kids, look out, because if you keep your eyes and ears open, you just might learn something. I learned a ton today when we went to OU and did her visit to the School of Fine Arts. And no, Heather, she actually chose not to even go to OSU's campus. I'm sorry to inform you. I will give you guys a little bit of peek behind the curtain. She's narrowed it down to 2 schools, right? And she went to KU, she went up to Chicago, she did some others. Did a heck of a lot of research online. Just frankly, we weren't going to go all around the country, but she really kind of narrowed it down to KU, OU, and Arkansas. And so here's where she sits right now. She's in love with Arkansas, and she's in love with OU for different reasons. And so I was really proud of her. The decision and discussion that we had today was, look, be fact-based in your decision. Don't make an emotional decision, or don't make that wow factor decision. Give yourself time to kind of digest, right? So there's a lot of moving parts when you come into making these selections. And many of you that are on right now, you've been through this process and you probably could have told me all this stuff. And so for those of you that haven't, this is me trying to be that guy to kind of give you some stuff to kind of think about as you prepare yourselves for the day that you're sitting in this seat drinking a little Merlot and helping your kid pick a school. Diana, good to see you down in Dallas. And Judy, Miss Hurd, good to see you. Hey, Judy, by the way, I sure hope that those trucks are slowing down out by your property. It's a shame. Cobes Road, I believe it is, brings back a lot of memories for me, and I'm sorry that there's that disruption down there for you guys. But anyway, guys, so just, I promised to be brief, so I'll quit rambling here, but kind of the key things that it boiled down to for us was, one, I think it says a lot about the program with how much time the faculty spends with your child when you go and set up an official visit. Now, if you pop in, right, you may not get that kind of treatment. Or if you go with enormous groups, you may not get that kind of treatment. But I encourage you that if the universities that you're considering have some time that you can schedule some one-on-one time for your child to go and meet one-on-one. Let me tell you, we were scheduled for an hour today, and this professor, he was actually the head of the department, he spent 3 hours with my daughter today, and let me tell you, that was eye-opening in a fantastic way. Laura, actually this was a gift from my upline, Heather Warden. I think she's online right now, so it's pretty cool. It's like white wine below and red wine up above, so it's kind of dual purpose, but thank you, appreciate the compliment. Scott Sorensen, San Diego, California, man, good to see you. So anyway, look, as I boil it down to this, right, the discussions that we had was, one, I think the school needs to be a cultural fit. And I don't know that kids think about that as much, right? I think that they may be in love with like a sports team or a brand, or they might go and look at the campus and go, man, what a pretty campus. Or they might have friends that are going there, so they kind of want to go along with some friends that they know from high school or church or whatever. And then they get there and they find that there's a culture, right, in that campus, and they feel like maybe that they're not a good fit. And I'll tell you, out of all the things to consider, to me, that's probably the one primary thing that I think that you need to kind of coach your kid to be thinking about and to try to do their best to get a feel for while they're on campus. Because as pretty as the campus is, or as cool as their program is, if they're miserable, if they can't live their life and feel at home, they're going to get homesick, they're going to get burnt out, they're going to, whatever those things are, and they're going to want to get out. And so then all that other stuff doesn't matter, right? So number one piece of advice, bank it, right, is they've got to feel good about the culture of the university. And it just so happens for OU, it's winning. So if you like winning, maybe Norman's for you or your kid. Cheers. So the second thing is that I think that you need to also think about, and this is kind of cultural, but I think that you need to think about class sizes and the faculty to student ratios, okay? And people may or may not think about that. But so that's tip number 2 is faculty to student ratios. So for today, we've discovered, if my daughter were to go to OU, there'd be like 13 students to 1, right? And so 13 students to 1 instructor. The university tries to keep it around 20, but that particular college within the university, they try to keep it around between 13 to 15. That's outstanding, right? When you think about most high schools are like, a big school, it's like 30 to 1, right? Now, smaller high schools, different story. But I like the idea that my kid might get a little bit more of that special attention and focus on them as she develops. So anyway, culture, teacher to student ratio. The third thing is I think that you need to start to think pragmatically, which is how does that degree transfer into real life? Now, I'm not saying that they need to know what they want to be when they grow up, right? And a lot of kids, I think, they go to school and they might change their major 10 times, right? So to that point, right, I would kind of coach them to go in early, do their general studies first, and maybe dabble in a class here or there. If they know exactly what they want to do, then by all means, support. But if they're a little bit on the fence, hey, Boomer Sooner, David Hunt just joined y'all. David, we're talking about my daughter. We took her to OU today for her official visit with her college. But so anyway, when you're thinking of particularly their freshman year, right, they've got to get their general studies out of the way. I had friends, and I even made the mistake of taking things that were within a major and getting a little bit too hot and heavy there, and then I changed my mind 3 times. So knock out general studies. Try to do the general studies that you're going to see across the multitude of degree plans that they may have an interest in, and sooner, and try to get them to, if they go in with 5, right, try to get them to boil it down to 2 or 3. You don't need to nail it down to 1 early, right? But so anyway, that's important. But then also, and during the orientation today, the young man that hosted it, he made a great point. He said at OU, for example, they don't have pre-med, they don't have pre-law. And the reason for those, and this is just 2 examples, but the reason is they're like, at the end of it, if you change your mind or if you don't perform well enough to get into the post-grad school or you choose not to, then what good is a pre-law degree going to do you? Or if you don't choose to go to medical school, what good is a pre-med degree going to do you? So their advice is choose something that gives you options, right? So if you're a biology major, you can certainly take that and get into medical school with it. If you don't, you could go into biomedical sales, you could teach biology, right? So kind of give your kid the idea to leave themselves some options if things don't go exactly how they anticipate on paper, right? And so I guess finally is kind of start with the end in mind is what and the last one's a little bit like this advice, but what types of jobs are out there? So when they think about the experiences they have on their resume, certainly they want to make good grades. Certainly they want to take all the right courses, but it's a well-roundedness, not only going into college. I think colleges are looking more for kids with well-roundedness, but most certainly as an HR guy, I can attest to this, companies are looking for graduates with well-roundedness, okay? Now that doesn't mean that you can have a crappy GPA and be all those other things. So you need a respectable GPA. But it's not just about the GPA. You just because you have a 4.0 from whatever university that you go to, you've got to complement that with being a good citizen, right? So were you in any clubs? Did you work full or part time? Did you do any volunteer work? Okay, so what are these types of things? And is there any kind of cohesion or rhyme or reason to the things as you piece them together for one body of work to go, hey, this is kind of who I am as a young professional, right? So really that's it, okay? And I mean, there's a myriad of other things that we could sit and talk about, right? There's tons of content around this topic, but just for brevity and to get through this, I mean, I've still got to knock the rest of this out before I have my fishbowl margaritas with Kim. But guys, I hope that's helpful to you a little bit, again, as you facilitate the decision for your kids. And I can't say it strongly enough. Again, my opinion is try not to push your kid into a school, but really try to be a facilitator. And if they see the value in all those things that I rattled off, and they see the fit, and they see that that the school that they want to go into, how is that ranked? Because you could be in a top university in terms of, I don't know, let's say Wisconsin. I'm pulling that out of my hat. Better yet, let me. I know a little bit more about Michigan State. Okay, I don't know what Michigan State looks like stacked up against Harvard or Yale or Princeton or whatever, right? But I can tell you that if you went to Harvard, there's going to be some things that are great about Harvard just because you went to Harvard. You got a piece of paper that says Harvard that automatically comes with a network, and you pay out the eye for it. Okay. Conversely, if you go to Michigan State and you go into labor relations, let's say industrial labor relations, I would say that you're going to fare better in that discipline going into the job market with a piece of paper that says Michigan State with industrial labor relations on it than you would graduating from Harvard with industrial labor relations. So again, you might not have the same network, but Michigan State is renowned for their School of Industrial and Labor Relations. It's what they do. Criminal justice is another one up there, right? Sam Houston State, real strong in criminal justice as well. Hey, Summer, how are you? Thanks for being on. So anyway, look, I hope that's a little bit helpful to you. Again, it's a huge topic, but for me, my personal learning was if I try to push my kid, I know my kid well enough that she's going to completely do the opposite thing, and it's not all about me, right? If my kid goes to Arkansas, so be it. I'm going to be blessed, and you may or may not see. They hear you. Kim's calling out the hogs over here.
In jest.
In jest, right. We can't, no calling out the hogs. She's driven me to drink Merlot. So, but if that's what she chooses to do, then I'm going to support that, right? Because she owns that. She's going to live with that decision. And only she knows, again, culturally, that whether that's the right fit or whether that's the program that she thinks is going to give her the educational and professional skill sets that she needs to take into the workplace. And me and Kim, our role, again, is to facilitate and try to insert a little bit of wisdom in helping her through that decision-making process. And then, if she does go there and they meet up with OU and we got to spank that booty, then she's got to live with that decision, doesn't she? So that's all I got, Facebook friends. I love all of y'all. And I really am grateful each time that you pop on. And do me a favor down in here, if any of this provided any value for you, type value. If you've got people that are in our seat right now and their kids are preparing to head off to school, maybe they're a senior, maybe they're a junior, heck, even as a sophomore, I don't think it's too soon to begin having these conversations. Oh, and the final thing, right, is ACT and SAT scores. Guys, you cannot underestimate the importance of those scores, particularly money that you're leaving on the table. And this is something that I learned. The scholarship money for people with decent GPAs and their ACT scores is phenomenal. So if your kids aren't motivated by their grades, hopefully they're motivated by money and they understand that they are leaving money on the table if they're not putting an emphasis on those things. So that's all I got. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. Cheers. Again, this is Ghost Pines Merlot. I'm going to start kind of doing this, right? And maybe people start sending me sample bottles to endorse their product on Fireside. Yeah. You guys have a great weekend. Take care.